All right, and we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Million Over the Moon live stream. We have an extremely special guest with us today. We have Mr. Jack Levin. How's it going, man?
Hey, very good to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. It's great to meet you as well. I've heard quite a lot of things about you. I heard that you were a original, one of the OG employees over there at Google. Is that true? Tell me about that.
It is true. It's on my LinkedIn, so it must be true.
If it's on the internet, it has to be true.
Of course.
Yes, that's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, it's joined Google in '99 and spent about 6 years working at Google building infrastructure. So that was my
Okay.
thing.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were building architecture. What could you explain to kind of the audience? What does that mean?
So what it means is I actually, when I joined Google first, I didn't even know what my job would be because they didn't tell me at the interview what I was going to be doing. Um, Google ran on Linux, and I was a Linux expert at the time. That was 1999, and so on my first day, Larry Page, the founder of Google, I asked him, "So what is my primary objective this month or this quarter?" And he said, "Well, Google is crashing a lot, so let's just make it faster and have it not crash." So for the first 3 months, that was my task, is just to work with the backend architecture to make it stronger.
And when what year was this when you joined?
99.
99. Did you have any idea back then of what Google could have been? Like, did you see the vision, or how did you think of it at the time?
I thought of it as an extremely useful product because it
Mm,
made people smarter almost instantly by tapping into the collective knowledge of the humans out there that are creating content online. So that content was relatively inaccessible. But now we can Google anything, and even back then, um, even though there were other search engines out there, there was Alta Vista and Yahoo had a search engine. Google just excelled at finding information quickly with the lowest barrier to entry. So to me, it was like a very useful product for the world. But we never thought, of course, that it's going to be huge. We just thought that it's going to be a nice search engine that portals will be using. So like Yahoo and Netscape and Excited Home, that sort of thing. So our goal was to be an add-on to the portals because in 99, in 2000, everything was about portals and things like weather, financial markets, news, that sort of thing. So nobody really thought of search as an important element. And Google, I feel like, made it important.
I see. Now, forgive what might be a personal question, but were you ever paid in Google stock?
Of course.
Do you still keep any?
I might. I
Okay.
I don't want to talk about what I'm holding just because, well, it's internet.
Sure. Yeah. The reason why I bring it up is because I want to kind of ask you what you think about Google today, and I want to get kind of a sense of what your bias may or may not be. Because with recent, and we'll get into Zen and all this stuff, but I'm curious because of what you might think of potential competitors to Google today with things like Chat GPT. Are you familiar with that? With
Yeah,
what's going on? How do you think that impacts Google? Do you see that as a potential competitor to Google?
I don't think so
Hmm.
because Chat GPT, it doesn't really give you precise information. It just dresses up information in the nice narrative, but the narrative is um, not at all the same as search. So, but it's definitely helpful. Like for example, I can go to Chat GPT and I can say, write me an ERC20 token contract, or write a function to find prime numbers in Haskell. So that's in that particular case, it works really well. But with Google, you can search examples of the same, and you're gonna get 20 different viewpoints and guides how to do it too. So it's a little bit different, but it's not the same as search. So search is ever increasing in its, I guess, knowledge and ability to bring fresh information, where ChatGPT has to be trained from the same information. Like ChatGPT is not real time. Like it doesn't know what's happening this year or last year. It has only the knowledge of 2021. But in 2022, like for example, somebody just discovered that they can have a fusion reaction that's controllable. ChatGPT knows nothing about fusion. And yet with Google, you can type in fusion reaction in a lab, and you will get 15 different articles that you can study from. So ChatGPT will always be lacking the today's information.
Wonderfully said. As a Google shareholder, that's a great response. But you know what I find particularly interesting as well is where it could be going because of the new iterations that are coming out. It's a super interesting technology. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that evolves and what Google comes up with as well. So
Yeah.
How did you get involved in the tech world to begin with? You said you kind of understood Linux. Did you go to school for that? Were you a programmer? How did you get interested in that field in the first place?
Well, when I was younger, I just played a lot of video games, and
Yeah,
it just was a natural thing for me to study computer science. So I went to the university and got computer science degree.
I see.
And then I got recruited to work at Silicon Valley. So I worked in other companies before Google, and that's how I learned the tech aspect of it, all the technologies.
I see. So how was it that you started getting interested in crypto?
It actually came from Google too.
Yeah,
So I was visiting Google and I was having lunch with my buddies, and somebody said, "Hey, Bitcoin, you can buy a flamethrower with it." I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting."
really?
Yeah, yeah. So at Google, I was actually introduced to Bitcoin, and I started mining it in 2011. So I was mining 3 Bitcoins a day.
Oh wow.
And then the story goes is that I sold Bitcoin at 30 to Richard Hart. So he bought the local top, and I sold the local top. I don't think either of us are happy about that decision.
No, I certainly wouldn't be as well. Just to add to the embarrassment here, I was buying Microsoft stock back in 2014, 2015. And even though it did quite well by today's standard, by stock market standards, I mean, my God, if I was getting involved in Bitcoin or even later on Ethereum, I would have been doing much better.
Yeah, you could have bought Bitcoin for $1, thousand Bitcoins, right?
Back in 2014,
Well, not 2014, but back in the day, back in 2010, 2011.
yeah, yeah, it's incredibly important to get in early on things with product market fit, which is why I'm definitely interested to talk further about Zen. So, okay, you were into computer science, worked at Google, um, you heard about Bitcoin. Did you get into other things other than Bitcoin, or were you a Bitcoin maximalist?
Back in the day, there was no maximalist concept because Bitcoin was the only thing.
Mm,
So there's nothing to be imagined. I mean, maximalism came like really in the later years. I would say 2015
with
when
Ethereum,
Ethereum,
you'd say, yeah.
well, with Ethereum and all of the projects that came out of Ethereum, that was not Bitcoin. So that kind of made the Bitcoin club a little bit more worried about dilution of the interest into Bitcoin. So that's how maximalism was created.
Did you dabble in any of these ETH projects, ETH competitors, layer ones, anything like
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Yeah.
I played with everything. I was well. The second thing that I mined after Bitcoin was Litecoin,
Mm,
and then I also mined a little bit of Dogecoin and just all of those things.
interesting. Okay. And so, what got you thinking about Zen? What made you want to create a cryptocurrency? Oh, did we lose you?
No, no, you didn't lose me.
Okay,
My camera is a little glitchy today for some reason.
that's
Sorry.
okay. Maybe we're getting hacked. We'll
Yeah,
blame the Russians.
the AI overlords do not want us talking about
Yeah.
AI in a negative light.
OpenAI didn't like your answer, so they're coming after us.
Yeah. So, what was the question? Sorry.
Yeah. So, what made you want to create your own token? What was the imperative? uh, to create your own token?
Well, I wanted to invest into something that I believed in. And it's kind of, I would say, well, maximalists, BTC maximalists would disagree with me, but Bitcoin is kind of, uh, I wouldn't say unaffordable, but there's just nothing that's really interesting happening there. And then in the Ethereum world, there's a lot of interesting projects, and you can invest in a lot of them, but a lot of them are not based on first principles. And first principles of blockchain and crypto is self-custody, transparency, immutability, um, third-party counterparty resistance, no middleman, that sort of thing. And so I wanted to create something that I could deeply invest my time and money into, and it just felt natural to create a token that embodies all of those things.
I see. So then let's delve into Zen further here. What is Zen? What is its use case? Just tell us what Zen is all about.
So Zen is like Bitcoin. It's based on Bitcoin, and it has some meme coin aspects in it too. So, like for example, Dogecoin has been very, very popular, and it's been popular because it has this angle of being cryptocurrency for a little guy, more so than Bitcoin or Ethereum. And it had a vibrant community. And I thought that what if I could replicate the first principles of Satoshi's paper with strong community and without necessarily the maximalism? And maximalism would be, it's kind of like an exclusive club, relatively high barrier to entry, that's that sort of thing. And you have to like invest into this one thing and forget about everything else. So with the Zen ecosystem, I wanted to build Zen as a building block for the ecosystem creation. So Zen is like Legos, and what you can build with it could be anything.
I see. So to kind of maybe delve into this idea further, do you see Zen as a peer-to-peer digital currency? Do you see it as a more accessible way to enter this different economic space where the economic use case is perhaps yet to be seen? Can you expand on that question a bit? How do you see Zen being utilized by the average day, folk?
So currently, Zen is in its, I guess, minting phase or hyperinflationary phase, which is very important for Zen to be held by as many humans as possible in the world. And that addresses several aspects. First, if you have a large community, the value is just the community size. Because when the community gets large, everyone else decides to work with the community just because the addressable market is very large. And so community is this one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is all of the developers that are coming. So developers are building on Zen, and we have the proof of burn mechanism inside Zen, which is not prevalent in many coins. You can actually have a contract built on top of Zen that does a callback back to the Zen contract and execute the burn. And when we say the burn, yes, it's destroying Zen, but at the same time, you can issue another token from Zen. So you can have the blockchain act as a market maker for you without the counterparty. So let's dig into that a little bit deeper. For you to buy any coin out there, you have to buy it from someone, correct?
Right.
There's no other option. Now, let's say that you're a developer and you're developing a very interesting project that does something completely opposite of Zen is doing, but it's still very useful and very interesting, and we don't even know what it might be. But let's just say that it's a good idea and you want to have the largest addressable market. So what you can do is you can build a contract that will allow you to trade your Zen or to trade everybody's Zen for this new token by exchanging within the contract itself without the counterparty. So nobody will have to sell the new coin or new token to you. You can just have the contract, the second new contract, originate this token X by trading Zen for it inside the blockchain itself. And that's, I would say, not necessarily a novel concept, but not many people do it because people like to sell their tokens. They want to make them and then they sell them on the open market. But that involves two people or two parties, the seller and the buyer. If you just launch a contract that creates and mints new tokens, you can say, okay, for you to mint new token for yourself, you have to come in with Zen. And if you have a lot of people with Zen, now your addressable market is enormous.
That is very, very interesting. Let's hover on this idea because that is a novel. I don't know if the idea itself, like you said, is novel, but at least the actual implementation of it, adoption of the idea, I think is novel. So, are you suggesting that one of the potential use cases of Zen is to, instead of, if you want to get into another cryptocurrency, instead of having to participate with a marketplace, which opens up some degree of third-party risk, you're saying that you can simply use the Zen smart contract to swap for another cryptocurrency. Now, is that other cryptocurrency another crypto within the Zen ecosystem, or are you suggesting that Zen can one day maybe swap is perhaps an inaccurate term, but be swapped for many different cryptocurrencies? Is that question making sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So there could be 100 different projects that do 100 different things, and they all swap Zen and originate their crypto by swapping Zen for it. Except nobody has to actually receive Zen. Zen's contract will burn it, and the new contract will issue the new token. Like, for example, somebody came up with a proof of burn token. And the proof of burn token could be something very simple. Let's say 10 million cap, and for you to compete and create this proof of burn token, you have to burn 1 million Zen for one of the tokens. So you're burning 1 million Zen, you get this one token for that, and that launches this new crypto that's capped, has different economics, and create something out of nothing from but I wouldn't say it's creating something out of nothing. It's taking the existing users of Zen and offering them something else that's different in the tokenomic sense.
Now, there's so many ways I could go with this, but why do you think this use case would be necessary? So if I can maybe expand on this point a little bit further for the audience, just so we'll, in an attempt to make sure we're all following here, you were saying that potentially one of the use cases of Zen is to distribute it so widely that it essentially acts as kind of a base layer where future transactions could originate from. For example, if you wanted to distribute new cryptocurrency, instead of doing some traditional way of distributing, you could say, since Zen is so widely distributed that if you burn some Zen, you could have this new cryptocurrency. Why do you think that is a use case that could be adopted? Is there a problem with the way cryptocurrencies today are being distributed?
Yeah, it's very difficult to get into crypto without paying a lot of money for it. Like, for example, you could do the same thing with Ethereum, and you can even technically burn Ethereum, but it doesn't make any sense to do it because Ethereum is used for gas.
Right.
So you wouldn't want to do it. So what else would you do? I mean, there's very limited options to do it. So Zen aims to become the most widely held cryptocurrency out there for the world, acting as a digital cash, which can be converted into a bunch of new different projects, which could be new tokens, ERC20 based, or it could be NFTs. So we have some NFT projects that have launched too that are very interesting. They have collectible properties, and they require some sort of Zen action.
I see. There's so many different branches that could go off here. Now, one point I would want to hover on for a bit because I want to be honest with you in the audience as to kind of what was one of the reasons that kind of really prompted me to reach out to you specifically, because I've been hearing a lot of interesting, good things about Zen. I've also been hearing a lot of bad things from Zen. And me personally, I'm coming from the Richard Art community side of things, and I'm frankly hearing very similar critiques that were used against Hex and other new ideas being lobbied against Zen. and a lot of very bad arguments. I think I could come up with a pretty good argument against Zen, but the ones I'm hearing are frankly terrible. This being highly inflationary. That is true. When you have a bunch of supply and not a lot of demand, we know what kind of happens to price. But there are many things who are highly inflationary in its beginning that have gone on to see some kind of adoption. The argument about the price being down. Right now it's a bear market. Everything's down. That doesn't mean that I can't change one day. So I'm hearing a lot of very bad arguments against Zen, and one of those bad arguments was the fact that it's highly inflationary. Now, of course, again, with a lot of supply and a lot of demand, we all know what happens to price. But you're saying that that's, if I'm understanding correctly, that's a feature, not a bug. That the whole idea is to get this as widely distributed as possible. And if you do that through basically being able to mint just with an ETH gas fee, that the kind of network effect brings some degree of value. Am I understanding the idea?
That's
Is that
exactly
the
right.
idea?
So
Yeah.
so Zen runs the proof of participation protocol, where you're participating by minting, and then you have to claim. You specify the amount of days you mint for, and then you claim at the end of the period. If you don't claim it, Zen never gets created, and you lose all of your rewards. So that's the proof of the participation aspect. But in simple terms, you can say it's also proof of gas. The contract knows that you have spent gas to create Zen. And that's very unique because gas right now, 20 Gwei. Last year it was 200 Gwei.
Yes, but that's another critique as well. This is a bear market. The price of gas is very likely to increase in the future. Does Zen exist on other chains, second layer scaling solutions? Where does Zen exist?
It exists on 10 different chains, including Polygon and Binance, also in other places like EVMOS, and there's also the Moonbeam, which is the Polkadot ecosystem, Binance, uh, Phantom, pretty much everywhere, 10 different chains. Now, that's not the same Zen. The concept is the same, but every chain has different economics. So it's a different token. And it's even called different. Like on Binance, it's called BZen, small b and capital X.
Why would it have different economics? That's simply a function of how many minters are on that chain.
It's function of gas and the users. So on Polygon, you can mint Zen for 5 cents. But on Ethereum, you can mint Zen for $5. So the difference is 100 times.
Do you see that as a problem, the gas fees? Because probably most people are going to be on Ethereum, simply because that's where most of DeFi is nowadays, and is likely to continue being the case. As gas fees continue to rise in cost over, in the future, do you see that as a problem for Zen?
No, it's a benefit.
Why
Because,
so?
well, today you can mint Zen for $5, but next year it's going to be $50. So what does it do for creation of Zen? It actually slows it down.
I see.
It makes it more expensive. But if you go back to the economics here, ETH right now is $1,200. What if it gets to 10,000? So in dollar terms, even if the gas remains 20 Gwei, in dollar terms, Zen would be 8 times more valuable just because you would have to spend 8 times more in dollar terms to create it.
Now let's talk about the tokenomics a bit here. So we kind of touched upon the fact that you mint Zen through a gas fee. Is there a max supply? Does the inflation decrease over time? Let's talk about the tokenomics of Zen.
So there's a number of amplifiers that give you more Zen earlier in the beginning of a project, and the total tokenomics for the Zen emissions run out in about 8 years. So in 8 years, in 3,000 days from launch, you can't make any more Zen. I mean, you would still be able to make a little bit of Zen. And just to give you an example, right now you can make 60,000, 70,000 Zen per day, every day. In 8 years, it's going to be 10 to 20, not even 1,000, just 10 as your fingers. That's it. So the contract continuously increasing difficulty daily.
I see. Okay. Now I saw we got a super chat I don't want to forget this. So I want to say PNW Sasquatch, thank you so much for the $10. The question is, does it no longer make sense to create multiple wallets to mint Zen? If you were doing 10 at a time, shouldn't you always use the Zen NFT? Is the old minting way antiquated now, unless doing only one mint?
I would say there's truth to that, because with Zen NFT, you're embedding the mint inside an NFT that can be tradable. So think about it this way. Let's say that. So anyway, going back to the function of the Zen NFTs. With Zen NFTs, you can mint multiple wallets with one transaction, which is extremely powerful. And you can set how many wallets. You can go from one, and you can go as high as 128 wallets. So one Zen NFT can control up to 128 wallets with one transaction. Now, of course, you're going to pay 128 times more in gas. So if it's $5 to mint one wallet, you can pay $600 and mint 128. It all depends on how much gas money you want to spend. Now, the most unique and interesting part about it is that once you mint this NFT for yourself, it becomes tradable. So you don't have the Zen yet, because it's 300, 400 days out, whatever the amount of time you specify, but you can trade it today. You can say, hey, Jack, I have this 128 wallets in this Zen NFT. It's maturing in 400 days. I don't want to hold it. I want to sell it to you. How much would you pay? Well, it depends on the GUI. If GUI was 10 when I was minting Zen NFT, I would have paid $500. If GUI is 20 GUI or 30 GUI right now, and you find a buyer, technically they cannot mint the same Zen NFT for $500. They're going to have to pay $1,500 because the gas price went up. Now, you could say that, hey, Jack, yes, I minted it for $500. I timed the gas price being very low at 10 GUI, but it's moving higher. Therefore, I'm willing to part my ways with this new NFT for $2,000. You see what I mean? So you can pass on the mint function to someone else, to somebody else's wallet. And you can trade it on OpenSea.
Okay, so this is currently on OpenSea. Is that the only marketplace currently for this?
The way that the marketplaces work for NFTs, we don't have to tell anybody to do anything. They can start trading on all of the marketplaces automatically right away.
I see. I got you. Now, at risk of making a poor analogy, this seems to me to be very similar to encapsulated hex stakes, where the idea is that you get some supply, you stake it, you lock it up, you get some inflation, but you can kind of sell the rights, the ownership to that stake. So is that a proper analogy?
It is a proper analogy, but I think, are you talking about Hedron specifically?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So Hedron is the ERC20.
Yeah.
It's not an NFT.
Sure, just in the sense of how it functions.
Right. The functionality is very, very similar.
Right.
But I would say that we introduce rarity and collectability with NFTs, because we have three different categories. The first category is Apex. There's only 10,000 of them. And we also introduce burn. So you have to burn Zen to actually mint the collectible, or the NFTs that are very collectible, you have to burn them. But we do have the lowest tier where Zen burn is not required, and you can use them as a bulk minter. Bulk minter meaning one transaction for many wallets.
I see. Okay, so if we can maybe summarize how these Zen NFTs work, to my understanding is that, and again, correct me where I'm wrong here, is that you have some Zen, you burn it for an NFT, that NFT represents your principal Zen plus interest that is redeemable after a given lockup period, where you could also liquidate the NFT really whenever you want on a marketplace.
You can liquidate it at any time to a buyer who is interested in having future Zen to be minted for themselves. But that buyer can also sell it later. Like, you can buy it, and then if something happening with Ethereum, it's doubling in price, then NFTs likely will double in price too, because they have the embedded gas futures.
Right.
Are you familiar with futures? How futures work?
Vaguely, but for the sake of the audience, why don't you explain?
So a future contract is something that you can get in the future. So in case of Zen, that's future mint of Zen. But there's no reason why you cannot trade the futures of Zen for the willing buyers.
Right.
So somebody will say, hey, I missed my 10 Gui gas period. It's 15 now. It's coming up to be 20. I'm willing to buy it for an equivalent of 17. So between 10 and 17 is 70% delta. So the original minter of this NFT could gain 70% in profit without even holding any Zen.
17?
Yeah, well, like 10 to 17 is 70%, right?
Okay.
So 10 plus 7. So 7 from 10 is 70%.
70,
That's the difference. If it was 20, it would have been 100%. So let's say that 10 Gui on a weekend becomes 20 on a weekday. On a weekday, your NFTs are technically twice as more expensive because they cannot be produced at the same level of the gas burn.
Now, is there a max amount of these NFTs? You mentioned the rarity here. Is there a max that can be produced?
There's 3 categories. The first category is the most rare one and the most interesting one. That's what we call Apex. Apex is only 10,000 it will ever be produced. So after 10,000, they can no longer be produced at all. They have a hard cap. The middle category is called limited. It's limited by time. It has a rabbit on it, and it's a Chinese rabbit year in Chinese zodiac. That is limited by the time, by a year. So after 2023, those guys are gone. So they're unlimited based on the volume of creation, but they're limited by time.
Only for 1 year. In the Apex ones, how many years is that?
It has no time limit, but there's only 10,000 of them. So if all of them are minted tomorrow, they're gone.
I see. Okay, and if we could hover on the Apex for a minute. So there's no time limit. You can essentially hold this NFT in perpetuity, but you said after 8 or so years, the inflation is over. So where do the staking rewards come from for the Apex NFTs if after 8 years there's no more inflation?
So NFTs themselves do not have the time relation. They just make more Zen for you, but they're also collectible. Like you trade your Zen for the new Zen NFT. That's how that works.
So so the Apex Zen NFT will create yield in Zen forever. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
Zen's contract has built-in feature where after 8 years there's no more produced. And when I say no more, it's just very, very small percentage, like 0.001% compared to the supply. So if Zen goes up in value and you hold Zen inside the Zen NFT, your NFT becomes even more rare because there's only 10,000 of them. Like, think about it. We estimate that 500 trillion Zen will be produced in an 8-year period. 500 trillion. However, the Apex NFTs are produced in a batch of 10,000, and there's no more than 10,000. So that is the major difference.
Right.
But the only way to get this NFT from the Apex category is to trade your Zen that you hold in your wallet today for the NFT.
To trade or to burn?
It's equivalent. Because think about it. When you're trading, you're giving up something.
Yes, but that supply might theoretically re-enter the market at some point.
Certainly. With the Zen NFTs, it's a burn. So it goes away completely.
Goes away. Okay, so I'm trying to just understand just the APY for the Apex NFTs. Is there a set APY? How does that the
There's
returns,
no APY.
Or how does the yield? But there is a yield in Zen, correct?
Yield and APY and yield are equivalent in their concept. With Zen minting, there is creation of supply. So your NFT will create more supply of Zen for your wallet, depending on how much gas you paid. If you paid maximum amount of gas, then you will get maximum amount of Zen after 400 days. 400 days is the max.
So is the yield of the Apex NFT determined by what gas you paid, or by
basically.
something else? By the
It
gas you paid.
by the gas you paid. By Are you
Okay.
familiar with the concept of VMUs?
Of what, sorry?
Virtual VMU, virtual minting unit.
No.
A virtual minting unit is a variable that you specify when you create these NFT. You can have up to 128 VMUs, which is an equivalent of 128 wallets of plain vanilla Zen Mint. So you don't have to get it. You don't have to get this NFT to create Zen for yourself. You can go to zen.network and you can say, I have 128 wallets. I'm minting all of them one at a time, and I'm wasting a lot of my time doing it. Or you can have just one transaction, generate this NFT, and the 128 wallets live inside of it.
Interesting. Okay. And is the yield you get paid out illiquid, locked up, or is it distributed to your wallet and fully liquid for you? On what kind of time frame? Like
At
how the
maturity,
rewards distribute?
whatever you specify, it's at maturity.
I see. Okay.
So
Okay.
we should bring up a website and go over it. I think that would be very
Can
useful.
we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
What,
it's like share your screen and type zen.network.
Zen Network. Do I have to connect my wallet?
Yeah, but it will be invisible when you share.
That might be an issue. Yeah, I don't know.
You'll have a test wallet.
Not that I can log into at the moment. That's unfortunate.
That's okay. Why don't I do it? Because I have a wallet that's a test wallet. So
Yeah, please. If you could do that, I greatly appreciate that. It would be helpful to get a visual here. This is some very, very interesting stuff here.
Yeah, super interesting. Let's see. So I'm gonna get my wallet. I'm gonna get into the website.
Yeah, and folks, look, while we're pulling this up, if you guys want to like and share, I highly appreciate that. Helps with the live stream, helps spread the word. We're all learning here. I'm learning right alongside you guys. So if you want more people finding out, like, share, subscribe. Yeah, click all the buttons, all the good stuff.
Okay, so I'm sharing my my screen right now. Let's see if it comes up. Okay, so this is the website, and in here, this is the basic web form that gives you the ability to claim your C rank. So, like for example, you can specify 441 days today, and that's the global rank. The global rank is how many wallets participated so far. And I think you can have the calculator like this. And by the way, so this is one wallet creation. And in here, one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that as the network gets bigger, you actually get more rewards. Did you know that?
I did not know that. How does that work?
Okay. It has a function where the reward amplification, the yield in the new mint of Zen gets larger if you bring in your friends.
Is there a referral system, or is it just a matter of just the increasing the amount of users?
It just increases the amount of users.
Okay.
That's all. So look at this number. So this number right here is how much Zen you will make if there's no new users coming to the network, right? But let's look at the days too. So 200 days, you're making 600,000 Zen. In one day, it's a very small amount, only 3,000. But let's say that we do 200. So in 200 days, this wallet that we will mint will come to maturity. Now, if you go with 400 days, look what happened. This number doubles. So the longer you mint for, the more Zen you make. So that's almost 1,200,000, right? So here we're gonna make it almost even. Okay, so 1,200,000. Now that assumes that no new users are coming. Let's say 1,000 new users comes. Look what happened. 1,000 new users that are coming in minting amplified this number, the estimated Zen, almost 10x.
And these rewards are specifically for NFT minters.
No, we're not even talking about NFTs.
No,
we're talking about plain vanilla Zen minting. We'll cover NFTs in just a second.
Okay.
But plain vanilla Zen, if the network, so this is the total number of wallets that came in. If this number grows, which it will, it's only been 85 days, this number grew to 7 million wallets. So let's imagine, for the sake of argument, and in 400 days, this number is going to triple. So for this number to triple, we need to bring in 15 million users. So let's type in 15 million. And also, you see this estimated Zen? That's how much you would make. Now let's see this number growing. So we need to bring in 14 million users. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Look at this. It went from barely 1,200,000 to 28 million as the network grows. So this is a calculator that's built into your Mint Rewards interface. So you can estimate how much time you want to spend. So if you want to spend 10 days, you don't get a lot. If you want to spend 100 days, 400 days, you get quite a lot. So here it is, 100 days, 7 million. If you go max, 441, 31 million. So that's technically the yield of your action, right? And that's just one wallet.
What is the rationale behind increasing the rewards the more users are on the system?
Well, think about it. We want to achieve 100 to 200 million users in the system. We want this number to be 200 million, this number, because we want Zen holders to be maximized. So we want people to feel like if they bring in their friends and they talk about Zen, the whole thing has the social engagement reward.
I see. Okay, right. Because it seems to me that when you have a system that is highly inflationary, where do you get your value? Bitcoin gets its value from being arguably artificially scarce. It seems to me like Zen is going for the complete opposite, where Zen gets its value from being abundant and hoping that part of that abundancy comes with widespread user distribution and more users, so to speak.
Absolutely. So what happens in 8 years? This number becomes 20 per day. So in 8 years, it doesn't matter how many users you bring, there will be no more Zen created.
I see. So this is the minting function.
Yep.
We also we kind of touched upon the NFT stuff.
Yep.
There's also a staking function as well, is there not?
There is, but let's not go into that yet,
Sure.
because this is the basics. I feel like people should really understand first.
Yes.
Because everything else that's rewarding people on top, like staking, is like
it's built on top. Like you need the foundation.
It's like cream on top of the cake.
Right.
You want to have a nice, delicious cake first, and you need to understand the ingredients that go into making it, so that you would end up buying it, or at least feel good about eating it, so to speak, right? So here we covered one wallet mint, and this gives people an idea how to mint Zen with one wallet. Okay.
Yeah.
And if I press this button right here, so here it is. You don't see my MetaMask, but it did come up. Let me actually go ahead and claim. Let's see. I don't think I even have any money in this test wallet. Yeah, but I see that it will cost me $5 to do it.
Okay.
So I can't claim it right now, which is fine. So I'm just going to reject the transaction because I don't have any money in this wallet. Let's talk about Zen NFTs, because that is the latest, greatest, newest thing that is super exciting. I'm so psyched about it. It's crazy. So click in here. I don't have any Zen NFTs because my test wallet, there's a mint button right here.
Okay.
So I click on mint, and I get this beautiful UI right there. Now the first thing is VMUs. It's hard to see what it says, but what it says is, let's see, maybe I can make it larger. Better, yeah.
Yeah, I think I can see that.
VMU, virtual minting unit, is a virtual wallet created by a smart contract and controlled by you through the same contract. No one has the keys to these wallets, so you only have access to them yourself. The actual count of the VMUs is determined by the network block gas limit. That actually means that if you're on Ethereum, you can have different values here versus like Polygon, for example. So this one can be maxed out like this. And if I click max, I can go with one. So if I do this, and I can specify 442. See how it's similar to what we just saw? Except here you can actually choose a category. So if you go for a collector Zen NFT, you can change the max 128 wallets, and it changes its class. And those are different classes. So Ruby, Opal, Topaz, so all of the gems, and Zenturion is the most powerful. So 128 wallets, collector, Zenturion. If I click mint, let's see how much gas it will cost. So you don't see it, but to me, it's showing $630. So you see how this is so much more expensive than one VMU? One VMU was the previous page.
Right. And I'm very glad you brought this up and shared your screen, because it's starting to put this kind of theoretical framework into a much more kind of tangible way of understanding this. So we essentially have 3 different tiers of Zen NFT, where with the VMUs you choose how many wallets you're creating.
That's exactly right. So with one transaction, it is as if going back to here. This can only do one wallet. This is the regular ERC20 contract that does one wallet, but Zen NFTs can do bulk minting.
Right, and you choose your day period and you choose your rarity. Now, the rarity would the rarity, like for example, it seems to me like there's 2 ways. Well, so it seems to me like there's many different ways here to make your NFT more rare. So number 1 is kind of the category, then you go to the class, and then you can make the NFT more or less valuable depending on how many VMUs you create, and for the date as well. And that all kind of affects your yield. Is that correct?
That's exactly right.
Wow.
So this is one VMU. It's the cheapest one. This is the Ruby one. And then let's go to 50. Now we switch to Topaz like this. So let's go to 80. So now it became Aquamarine, so somewhere in the middle. So you see how like the number of wallets actually control the class.
This is super interesting.
Then we go to 128. We get this purple one that is the most expensive one. That's the one that people want because it has the most wallets in it.
I see. And when you mint the Zen NFT, what is the cost? Is it a gas fee? Is it Zen? What does it take?
So in this category, it only takes gas fee. In this category,
But
in this category, in Apex, if you go for rare, it requires you to burn 500 million Zen.
Now is that only for Apex?
That's no. So there is the limited one, the one that we talked about that has the rabbit.
That burns as well.
This one burns 250 million Zen, or has to burn.
Now, is there an extra bonus for creating the NFT that burns Zen?
Not in the yield, but it's more valuable on OpenSea.
What makes it more valuable?
So look at this class, this category Apex, and this class Unicorn. There's only 100 of them. 17 has been minted. When those 83 goes, they're gone, completely gone. The market will not have them. This is the part of the immutable contract. No more will be created. So if you're the lucky person who can afford to burn 10 billion Zen, which is $23,000 today, you will get this one unicorn out of 100. And this is number 17, by the way. So the The other 16 already been taken by people.
I see. And so for the higher tiers, you need to burn Zen to get kind of access to that exclusivity, while
That's
the
right.
lower tiers,
It's like as if you're loading your Zen into the NFT, because this is a proof of burn, right? So if you hold Apex Zunicorn, everyone knows that you have burned 10 billion Zen,
right.
because it's actually on blockchain, and it's part of the immutability of the contract.
Right. Now, this is incredibly interesting in a way to kind of take advantage of the system, but my intuition leads me to believe, at least from what I've heard so far, that this is a game that you can only play for the short term. Like, for example, I keep coming back to the point of like what happens 8 years from now. 8 years from now, you won't still be able to mint these NFTs, correct? Like, is this only something that participants will be able to do for a limited amount of time?
For 8 years, basically.
For 8 years, and then after that, the game's done. Whatever's distributed is distributed.
Right. But the value that has been spent has been embedded in it. So if the value increases over time due to deflation, then the value. So deflation moves opposite. The higher deflation is, the higher the value is for any token. That's true in economics.
So, right, and if we can get a better sense of how the tokenomics at least intended to operate, it seems to me that there's an initial highly inflationary period due to kind of anyone being able to mint. It seems like now Zen NFTs are stepping in here to create a period of deflation. Is there any other mechanism in the system we're missing here, or is that kind of how the system is intended to kind of be deflationary?
That's about 30% of the tokenomics here.
Okay. Well, there's more. Can't wait to hear.
There's a lot more.
Yeah.
But first, let's go to OpenSea real quick.
Please. Yeah, this is super interesting stuff. I was not aware that you were able to mint simply NFTs with a gas fee.
Well, we're here to educate, so I'm glad to do that.
Yeah.
So Zen NFTs by Zen Crypto. This is the place to go. This is the URL. All other URLs are probably scammers. So right now in here, in about 4 days, we've been minting, or rather users have been minting about 1,000 NFTs per day.
Mm.
And again, in contrast with the traditional NFT launch, our founding team did not sell those NFTs. It's people creating NFTs for themselves. So that's uniquely different, because we're not raising money by selling something that we're creating. We're just letting the crypto economy play its course. So
I hate to interrupt you here because this is super interesting stuff, but just because you mentioned it, I don't want to forget. Do you yourself or the team own Zen? Was there a portion of the supply withheld for kind of for the team?
No. Well, there's two answers. We're minting together with the community.
Okay.
We're in the same boat, but we never pre-minted anything for ourselves.
Right. Like there's no origin address version of Zen.
There's no 95% of OA closely held by anyone.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, right on.
So it's completely just decentralized, both economic and on a technical level. So anyhow, so let's look at the let's search for a category. Let's look for Apex. So now what we're doing is we're seeing 104 Apexes right here. And those are the Zen NFTs that have been created from that category.
I'm seeing a lot of ETH there.
Yeah. And then you can deselect this and you can go to limited. And limited has the rabbit. So you can see the rabbit right there.
Mm.
So this person, you can see 250 million Zen has been burned. So that's why it says 250 million X. And this person currently has this one for sale for that much.
I'm wondering what the volume is on this. I'm not personally expecting this to kind of be over the moon. Typically, with kind of any new,
the volume is pretty good actually. So if we look at the activity, so first of all, in 4 days we have seen 13 ETH in volume.
Okay.
So right there, and those are all the sales. So this is $400 that's been traded. Let's find something that's a little bit beefier. So this one, you can see that $2,300 has been traded for so someone sold it to someone else. So if we click on this one, you can see that this person has now jacked up the price to $6,000.
I see. So it was sold for 5,500 or something, and now it's gone to 600.
So
6,000.
they sold it for almost 2 ETH,
Right.
which is like, let's say, roughly $2,000, $200 something. Now he's getting offers right now, so he's getting $1,000 in offer right here, but he wants to flip it for 6,000. So he bought it for 2. He wants to flip it for 6.
Yeah. Not to mention that if we like the US dollar or the ETH unit price does not even need, the units of ETH doesn't even need to increase. I mean, over time, the value of Ethereum in and of itself has increased. So even if you buy it or if you sell it, if you bought it for 1 ETH and you sell it for 1 ETH 2 years from now, well, that 1 ETH is very likely to be more valuable.
That's exactly right. And so if we look at the number of Zen that has been burned, it's 500 million Zen burned right here. It also has 100 VMUs. You can see this number here. It has the 441-day term. And technically, we already looked at the numbers. It's going to be several billion Zen created by this date, maturity date, March 17, 2024. So you see how it's kind of gamified. These NFTs themselves are rare, but they also embed the yield or the future mint that can be traded. And right now, if this guy sells for 5 ETH or 4 ETH, then it's not just one seller made money, it's 2 sellers made money. And Zen hasn't even been minted yet.
So all the Zen is minted at the end of the period.
Yeah, it's minted by this date, March 17, 2024.
I see. Okay. Wow, this is super. And when did these NFTs roll out? This was pretty recent, was it not?
3 days ago.
Oh wow,
December 30th, 4 days ago.
Okay, right on. Now I'm hearing that there is there any more to these NFTs that we haven't touched on yet?
There's so much more, but we don't have to talk about this one topic.
Okay. Now I heard there was another token coming up. Is that true, or am I just hearing things?
It's true.
So tell us, what is this new token all about?
It's going to be amazing.
Because look, this is already pretty interesting stuff. Like, there's so much we can touch on. You know, I've been hearing. I'm not finding the criticisms of Zen particularly impressive, to be honest. I mean, I think I can right now do the best job of criticizing Zen, and you let me know what you think about this. Zen is essentially a brand new, unproven concept where it's yet to see if this idea truly gets adoption. If this gets mass adoption, as you know, we're seeing many participants, interacting with a smart contract. If that continues, then great, this can have some value. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. That seems to me to be the biggest risk factor. You know, I'm hearing things. Yeah,
but it's true for every cryptocurrency.
Exactly. If Bitcoin just stops getting adoption tomorrow, you know, the price is going to fall. So, this is why I was so excited to talk to you, because the arguments I'm hearing against Zen are very poor quality because they can be applied to many other things. Like another thing I'm hearing, for example, that Zen is proof of spam, because essentially the way you mint Zen is by creating a gas fee, essentially clogging up the network.
Yeah, but why would you do that?
Well, not just that, but doesn't any interaction, any usage of any cryptocurrency do that exact thing? Any adoption, any usage of any of these cryptocurrencies will fill up blocks, will fill up space.
Let's disassemble this argument.
Yeah.
If Zen's price was hard-coded at $1, and it could only be $1, and that's it, for the sake of argument, it's not going to happen, but let's say that it is, then the number of gas money you spend on it would be limited, because you wouldn't want to be as excited about it just because you know that it's likely not going to go up. So why would you spend gas on something that isn't going up? It doesn't make any sense, right? So that's the other polar opposite argument. Like a stable coin. Would you be spending a lot of gas on acquiring and purchasing stable coins?
Um, I mean, I can imagine a theoretical argument where one believes that the current market is so volatile that that even a premium on stability might be worth it, just as long as you can maintain some sort of economic power. But I get your point.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about it is that the Zen contract itself does not create spam. It's just there. Now, for some reason, people love it.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why they love it is because it's free. You just pay gas.
Right. And even if you accept the terminology spam, you're essentially saying that so many people like this idea that it's becoming a problem for the network to process all the demand. Because the network doesn't care if it's a swap or a mint. There's technicalities, I'm sure, in the way that's processed, but it's essentially all taking up some kind of space. The argument essentially seems to me that there's so much demand that it's making the network slow, which is not a bad thing for the particular idea. So it strikes me as a very bad
Yeah,
argument.
it's a stupid argument.
It's really a bad argument, and not just that. And I hate to make this an agree fest, but I'm honestly taken back at how poor quality these arguments are, and the argument as well of the price being down. I mean, let's address that for a second. Obviously, if someone bought around when this thing first came out, that's not good, but it's a bear market. Frankly, absolutely everything is down. The fact that this is highly inflationary now is very similar to other cryptocurrencies such as Hex and Bitcoin that were highly inflationary in the beginning and became less so later on.
Well, I would argue actually we're over the long term, Zen is less inflationary than Hex.
How so?
Hex inflation is against its total supply with 3.69%.
Right, because so it's continuous.
It will always be the case.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing to stop it from having that inflation. Now people compete for inflation. They buy Hex and then they stake it and they make 3.69 or whatever the split is between themselves. So they have the T shares, correct?
Yeah.
Now, but the inflation is hard coded and never going down. And so with Zen, the inflation is time based. In 3,000 days, inflation is almost non-existent.
3,000 days. How many?
That's 8 years and 3 months.
Okay.
So after the time period, the 369% of Hex against its total supply will remain 3.69%. Whereas Zen's inflation is going to be 0.000001, just because not much is minted at all, and nobody can make more.
Now I've heard you previously comment on Hex and Hex's price. I heard you say, I think it was in conversation with Crypto Coffee a while back, that you thought Hex was going to about 1 cent when it was much higher. Do you still think we're going to see a 1 cent Hex? You think we could go lower? What do you think about Hex? And then we'll maybe comment on the market as well.
I think the biggest danger to Hex right now is SEC probe.
Yeah.
So, and that information was not available when I was making my prediction. But that is the biggest detractor from new people getting into Hex, unless this issue is resolved.
I believe so. And look, I personally like Hex. I'm not one of these people that think there's no risk. I simply think the pros outweigh the cons. This is a very real temporary problem, although regulatory uncertainty at the very least affects sentiment. And we saw what kind of happened with XRP, although kind of the saving grace for Hex is the fact that it's almost entirely traded on decentralized exchanges. And so the real problem with XRP was when all this regulatory uncertainty hit, that it was delisted. It was going to get delisted everywhere from all these centralized exchanges. That couldn't really happen with Hex. So I mean, of course, any one government can attempt to make things hard for participants in new buy pressure enter Hex. But yeah, no, I definitely see it being
Well, let's just
a
say that's
short-term
not.
problem, sure.
Let's just say it's not a positive development,
It's
right?
not. Yeah.
Like the SEC naming Pulse Chain and Hex as having it on their radar is not good news for investors.
It's not great, but don't you also think that this is maybe it's just a matter of time before they come after everyone? Have you thought about, perhaps regulatory scrutiny, being directed towards Zen? Have you thought about that in the way you kind
Absolutely,
of speak
but
and construct Zen?
yeah, absolutely. So with Zen, uh, SEC goes after the distribution aspects of the cryptocurrencies. Like specifically, if the cryptocurrency was used as a security to promise some future work to the investors that are getting into some cryptocurrency that's created out of nothing. So it's pre-minted, distributed, promises are made, and people's money collected and traded for this new cryptocurrency. That is the 99.99% of reasons why SEC would be uh, making a case against any cryptocurrency. With Zen, this is not the case because Zen has never been created. Well, like when you get into Zen, you create it for yourself. Like it has never been pre-mined or pre-minted. So therefore, distribution model is uniquely similar to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was created out of nothing but electricity, and nobody was there pre-mining it. I mean, well, Satoshi technically pre-mined it, which makes it somewhat unfair. But nobody knows who Satoshi is, and that wallet hasn't been touched. Now with Zen, I am the founder. I'm doxed. Everybody knows who I am. But everybody also knows that I never sold or pre-sold Zen to selected group of investors, which means I'm passing the Howie test. The Howie test is testing whether any sort of asset is a security that's promising return based on the future work within the same security organization. Now with Zen, it cannot happen because we were all at zero Zen on day one. And then people interacted with the blockchain, they paid a little bit of gas, and they made Zen for themselves. Where's the seller? There's no sellers. There was no sellers and no people who were raising money by selling Zen because nobody had it. And that makes it not a security. It just makes it a digital asset that cannot be treated as a security.
Right. The issue I'm seeing with all this talk of what is and isn't a security is the fact that the regulators themselves have not made it clear. I mean, this is currently, frankly, a political issue with the advent of this new technology. No, you ask um, one branch of government and you ask another branch of government, and they may have two separate definitions of what is and isn't security, and what area of government should govern what. And this is a problem in between governments, in between jurisdictions. And so the problem is that there's so much ambiguity surrounding what is and isn't a security. And it seems like the definition is
I,
forever moving.
I don't think the definition is actually a problem. The problem is the enforcement and who they choose to go after.
Right.
Because there is 20,000 different coins out there on the market. 99% of them are scams, but they're small scams. They're not really stealing a lot of money from people, not yet. Now they pick and choose the biggest ones, the ones that annoy people the most.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
so in terms of ambiguity, the Howie test is pretty clear. It doesn't need to be interpreted. The first question is, did someone held a digital asset, created it out of nothing, and then sold it for profit? If that happened, it's likely security. Did the same someone promised the investors that they're going to be working on making this digital asset more valuable? If the answer is yes, then it's likely a security. And so you just need to fail one of those questions. If you fail, you're security. Now, technically, we could actually argue that Ethereum is a security also, because Vitalik actually minted Ethereum and then sold it to investors, promising it's going to be great.
Right, and this is also such a moving goalpost because largely what drives whether this is pursued or not is often political. So, um, yeah, man, look, I just think these are uncertain waters, and my the only kind of saving grace is I'm glad we're starting to see the advent a lot of regulatory and scrutiny now, and not come 2024, 2025, where it would probably be more uh, impactful on price if it began then.
Well,
Um,
I'm excited for the bull market. Let's leave that
yeah,
topic of that topic is a unhappy topic. Let's talk about the future.
that's true. Yeah. So where do you see Zen in the future? Well, what's left on the roadmap? I know we kind of touched on kind of a new token, but what's left on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
roadmap
Let's
for
talk
Zen?
about the reflection token. We haven't
Please,
talked
yeah.
about that.
Let's talk about it.
So a reflection token is a vertical integration of Zen into a new token that actually has a hard cap.
Okay, let's delve into that further. So, what are the tokenomics of this new token? What's it called, and how does one participate in it slash acquire it?
Okay, great questions. It's not called anything yet, but the
Okay,
tokenomics look like this: hard cap at 100 million.
okay,
The distribution time is 5 years. The rounds of distribution are monthly. Every month, you can mint some for yourself. Okay. Now, how do you mint it? Every month, you can choose to sacrifice your Zen to burn for the shares of the issuance of the monthly emissions.
okay. Now, you mentioned shares for the issuance. Is would it be fair to kind of begin to think and rationalize this share system as something equating or something similar to again, I hate to make a connection where it might not make sense, but you tell me if it does make sense. A kind of T-share system for Hex, where
So T-share system in Hex competes for yield, okay, which is very different than the tokenomics I'm describing.
okay,
In this particular case, just imagine a pie chart. Imagine there's two users, yourself and me. Now, on May 1st, arbitrary month, we come with 5 million Zen each, and we burn it on May 1st. Now, the split of a pie is 50-50. You get 50% of the emissions, I get 50% of the emissions. That is the creation of the new token, creation part. Now, if we do that and we are split at 50-50, we actually can see on the leaderboard that both of us have the same interest in the new emissions that are coming, correct? If a third player comes and says, wait a second, those two guys are weak sauce. I'm coming in not with a million Zen, I'm going to come in with 100 million Zen. And what happens is the system will say, okay, those first two players only have 2 million, the other guy has 100. What is the split now? 98% in his favor. Okay. And then both of us, we said, well, wait a second. We thought we're only two players. It's not fair that he's coming in with 100 million Zen. We need to up our stakes. We're going to add another 99 million, both of us, so that
mhm.
at least we're equal. Now the pie has three players, 33% each. So the game mechanics here is that the dashboard shows the players, and whoever contributes enough Zen for the shares will be able to compete for those shares of the distribution that happen monthly.
Wow. Okay, I could see this.
Do you see the game theory here?
I see the game theory.
How
Yeah.
the number four may come and say, "You guys are all weak sauce. I'm coming in with 10 billion Zen."
Now, one thing though is is the when you come in with the Zen, is the Zen being burned?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
great for Zen holders. Whoever
Right.
isn't even playing this game, their Zen becomes deflationary and goes up in value.
Yes. Yes, it certainly does. Wow, that is super, super interesting. Now, let me present to you with an idea. that I think is a problem, and I want to see if you
Sure.
agree this is a problem as well.
Okay.
So I've been talking to kind of some traditional finance people, um, and talking to them about crypto. One of the problems I'm finding is that traditional finance people, for right or wrong, bring with them a degree of baggage in terms of what they feel is necessary in terms of um, in terms of due diligence in order to consider an investment vehicle, um, in order to consider whether an investment vehicle is viable or not. What I'm getting at here is what I'm finding with a lot of cryptocurrencies, especially with Hex, is that there's a lot of ambiguity. And to find out how the systems work, and this is not just with Hex, there's many different cryptocurrencies, you usually have to go and like ask dudes and like try and pull information. And what I'm trying to get at here is that I really feel that's something similar to a white paper where either a member of the team, a founder, breaks down exactly how the tokenomics and how the system, how the smart contract is intended to work. I understand that these things are often like uses kind of marketing information, but whenever you kind of lack something equating a white paper where you break down at the intention of how the system works, the tokenomics, smart contract, whenever you lack that, I think that does act as a barrier to a lot of players that one might otherwise want interacting within the system. That degree of ambiguity where you kind of have to watch a live stream, or you kind of have to kind of ask some dude to figure out how a system works, I think is a friction point for a lot of adoption. Do you see that as a friction point? Do you
Absolutely.
see the need for something like a white paper breaking down how
Of
a
course.
protocol works?
That's
Yeah,
why our project has at least 2 white papers now. There's the original Zen white paper and there's Zen NFT white paper.
I see.
It
Okay,
describes everything.
I wasn't aware. That's good to hear.
No, 100%. I mean,
Right.
not only we have the white papers, we're also audited at least twice, both contracts.
And with these kind of new ideas you mentioned with the NFTs, but with this new token, is the idea to as well just have this in writing as how the protocol
Of
works?
course,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
here is the reason to be ambiguous. If you're a slippery traveling salesman that is selling snake oil, you will be talking about what it does, but you will not have a manual how it works. And
It's definitely a friction point for
and
sure.
the reason to do that, the benefit to the slippery salesman is to generate FOMO with as little information as possible to generate as much of interest as possible without selling anything that's worth value.
Jack, I don't like how much I'm agreeing with you here. Okay, I got to come up with ways that can
Why
kind
don't you like it? I mean, I
of.
think those are like really obvious things. Like
It is. Yeah.
everybody's like should be on board with that sort of a thing. Like, why would
It's
you be getting into a token that has no white paper and just one or two people talking about it that like don't even have a face on them?
yeah, yeah. It's certainly a problem when it comes to more, I don't want to say serious players, but it's definitely a friction point when it comes to adoption for sure.
Well,
So
we stand for fairness, and
mhm,
our foundation's name is Fair Crypto Foundation, and
mhm,
fairness comes with transparency, because the true value comes from the equilibrium of participation across the world. Like, in other words, we want something to be so transparent, so easily understood that everybody gets it, that everybody wants to play. Not some sort of group on tangent that's sitting in some sort of area, end up pumping the token, and then the founder disappears in some other country or whatever,
right,
right? We
yeah.
want the world adoption. We don't want a short-term pump. We want the longest possible value.
And so interesting. Yeah. And, so why don't we answer some kind of audience questions here? I just saw a couple questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
Ryan Torres is saying, for reflection token, do you compete for Zen burn every new month, or is it compounding your burned Zen for 5 years?
You compete every month. You compete every month, but every month there's less tokens to compete for. It's
Ah,
declining. So if you come in early with competition, that's the FOMO inducing narrative, if you will. So you're coming in early, you get the most tokens to compete for. And of course, you should get more tokens because you take the most risk. If you're coming in as the last person in the middle of the minting period, let's say in 3 years, of course you should be getting 60% less of tokens because it's already established its presence. So the earlier participants take on the most risk, therefore the rewards should be higher.
right, of course. And again, the more I'm getting to know Zen better and better, the more the inflation is really hitting home to be the feature, not the bug. Because like again, because I want to make it clear, I heard so much uh FUD about Zen when it first came out that I actually didn't bother looking into it. And in retrospect, I'm frankly ashamed of that because I did the same thing with Hex, where I heard some FUD from some people I respected, and I ignored Hex. And it wasn't until Hex did thousands of X growth that I came back and I looked at it and I said, "Oh my god! If I would have just paid attention when I first heard about it, I could have potentially benefited." And so
I,
I
I don't I
really didn't
don't
want to fall into the same trap.
yeah, I mean for sure fighting is just so silly, especially with stuff that's free. It has the lowest barrier to entry. Like why are people worried that somebody is getting stuff for free just for the price of gas? You pay gas anyway. It's a bear market. It costs almost nothing. Why would you be upset
I
about?
said, suppose the argument, at least from what I've heard, is that you're not creating value. Like for example, when you buy something, you're putting economic energy into it. But while minting, I suppose
Okay.
you're not.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Let's say 200 million people minted a wallet each. It's $5. 200 million. How much money is spent on gas? $1 billion. Are we gonna really assume that the $1 billion has no value?
Well, the value would essentially go to ETH stakers. It would essentially go to making ETH more expensive,
Deflation.
arguably, which
Deflationary.
which
Okay, well,
actually helps Zen.
first of all, let's clear up that argument. The gas you spend does not go to validators. 90% of that gas is burned.
Why so?
It is so because of the London fork. The London fork specifies in its description that 90% of gas is actually burned. And you can see it on Etherscan.
Right, right.
So
And if
validators
you
only make 2%,
and if you're
2% of the stake amount.
right, and if you're burning ETH, you're making it more scarce, more valuable, therefore potentially more expensive to mint, which is actually beneficial to previous Zen participants.
Right. So
Yeah.
do we or do we not have value? Where did the $1 billion go? The $1 billion, 90% of it got burned, reduced Ethereum supply, made Ethereum more stable, and made everybody's project more stable because of it.
Yes. Yeah. Look, there's a lot of very poor arguments against Zen. Like again, for me, this seems to me like a new, unproven idea where if it fails to get adoption, I could see Zen failing.
I
Uh,
want to share a screen real quick.
please do.
Bring it up. All right. All right. Number 18, Shiba Inu.
Mm,
By many parameters, arguably a shitcoin.
sure.
What is the total supply?
I'm seeing a lot of decimal points there, a lot of commas.
Let's say millions, billions.
Billions, trillions.
1,000 trillion is a quintillion.
It's a lot.
Is it a lot?
I'd say it's a lot.
Okay, fine. Let's say that I think they say that 50% of it is locked up and the keys are
Sure.
burned or something like that.
Yeah.
Let's go to the circulating supply.
Which is what matters.
589 trillion. Now they minted everything at once with one button press. Somebody hit enter, a quintillion tokens showed up. Now you could argue that this is one of the most inflated tokens out there, which is true. Let's look at their market cap. Almost $5 billion, right? Let's look at the trading volume. $100 million in a bear market. And of course, they're number 18. So this argument of something that's being abundant that has no value because it's abundant does not actually fly.
It's an extremely good point, because what really matters is not the total supply. It's really a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a supply that's interacting in the market at any given time.
All right. So let's look at this other thing. Let's look at Etherscan, and let's look at their holders. Let's see, holders. We'll click in here. All right, total holders. 1,275,000 holders. Doesn't seem like a lot of holders, actually. I mean, compared to the number of people in the world. So, but it's a good amount. It's 1 million. That's nice. I think Doge has 5 million, and obviously Ethereum has a lot more. Clearly, but again, this is a definition of a shitcoin. I mean, of course, Shiba Army would not agree with me, but looking at from the argument perspective of the total max supply and the total number of holders and all that stuff, it doesn't feel like it should have value, yet it does. Now, those guys existed for about 36 months. Right now, let's look at Zen. Zen Crypto right here. 50,000 wallets so far.
And presumably, most individuals have multiple wallets within the system.
Not with those holders. So the holders here are consolidated wallets, because most of the bulk minting is done with the wallets that are virtual. They're not really true wallets.
With the Zen, with the NFTs, are you referring to?
With coin tools and Zen NFTs, all of those wallets are virtual. They're not really true holders.
Okay.
And also, by the way, when you mint Zen, you're not yet holding it. You're not a holder. Okay.
No, why not?
Because when you claim, you're claiming the future emissions of Zen. Future emissions, 400 days plus. You're not a holder yet.
I see.
So it will not show up in this number at all. But what happens in 400 days? This number blows up to millions. And when that number blows up to millions, that's very bullish. If it becomes larger than Shiba, if all of a sudden it's 10 million, for the sake of argument, which is 5 times greater than Shiba, how will the market look at it? They will say huge adoption, relatively capped inflation, created by the community, has all of those distributed things that blockchain was actually built to solve. Possibly $1 billion valuation. I mean, I'm speculating here, but looking at the numbers, why wouldn't it be?
Yeah, I very much like the game theory, but I'm just trying to come up with possible critiques here. One critique I could come up with is, potential, whales within the system being able to dump, right, when they are able to mint. But again, that argument applies to everything as well.
Let's it's like this with everything, but let's look at Shiba real quick again. So anyway, Shiba is 1.3 million or so. Let's look at their holders. So you can see that there's some interesting wallets here that are holding 1% of the supply. 81 million. Wait a second. Yeah, $81 million per person. So this is probably a single person who split their wallets into a set, so they don't look like obvious that they're top holder, right? And then, of course, Binance has a lot. Now, let's look at Zen real quick. Let's look at the Zen's holders. So same thing. We click here. What is the different thing? What is the difference that you notice right away?
Seems more widely distributed.
It's more distributed because it's more fair, because now, it hasn't been implemented.
Do you buy that argument that whales in the system are a good thing for price action? I know there's nuance around here, but what do you think about that argument?
I don't think whales contribute to the economic stability of a coin, because a whale can lose, just a simple fact that the whale can lose their keys to someone else, funds stolen and then dumped. Would that not be a negative for the price? Of course it would be.
Right.
Because they were like, okay, I stole a chest of goods. I'm liquidating and disappearing into the sunset. I stole some whales' access keys. So that's a terrible idea to be a whale. I mean, to have whales. Price
Yeah.
gets more stable when there's no whales, when things are more evenly distributed, and we see it with Zen. This is actually very, very positive for the ecosystem. Not a single person can dump on somebody's head.
Right. That's true. Now, one of our potential criticism I can come up with is, you mentioned that the part, at least there is an element of kind of memeish nature with Zen, and part of the risk that at least I see with meme coins in general is the fact that they might have some interesting tokenomics, but they may be easily replaceable, because that's one of the innate things about memes is that they evolve, and that what meme is most popular of the day is changes, and so they seem particularly vulnerable to shifts in kind of narratives. Do you see kind of another Zen competitor out there? How does Zen kind of really differentiate itself from, like you said, the other 20,000 cryptocurrencies that are out there?
I think if our meme is fairness, I'd like to see fair projects out there,
Mm.
more of them, because it will make the whole ecosystem healthier. So I don't mind having competitors that are actually following the first principles of crypto.
Which lucky for you, they're not. Or at least they're not many.
Not many, but
Not
I
many.
think we're here to change the narrative. We want more competitors like that. And in fact, anybody who is creating and building on top of Zen and creating their own uh, fair crypto, following first principles, are always welcome, and we will promote them.
Do you have you seen any of that yet? Is there anyone building on
Yeah,
top of Zen, with Zen derivatives, anything like that?
absolutely. There's at least one or two NFT projects. One of them called Zen Heads. Another project called Phoenix. It's like a bird phoenix that's coming up from the ashes of Zen burn. That's how that works.
Okay.
So you can burn Zen and trade Zen for Phoenix, and Phoenix can be staked almost to infinity. And it has different economics of staking, so it can pay you like different type of percentage allocation.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay, so if I can maybe attempt to summarize the Zen ecosystem to my best understanding so far, allow me to do that, and then you kind of correct me where I'm wrong here. So Zen so far seems to be a cryptocurrency that is trying to follow kind of the initial principles that make cryptocurrency valuable in the first place, kind of immutable, decentralized, that kind of thing. Zen seems to be kind of a cryptocurrency that is highly inflationary in the beginning. After 8 or so years, the inflation dies down quite dramatically. You can create Zen NFTs that lock up Zen that pay you a yield. And we also have this new up and coming token where you can burn some Zen
you
and
compete.
you compete to burn some Zen.
Yeah, very important aspect is, remember how we said we compete for the pie chart,
Right. So
because that accelerates the burn. Because if you're coming in with a million Zen and somebody else coming in with a billion Zen, you're like, wait a second, maybe I should actually burn a billion, otherwise I don't get any shares.
right, right, or for far fewer, perhaps. Is that correct?
What do you mean?
Like for example, I come in for a million, someone comes in with a billion, I would still get some shares, but just comparatively far fewer.
Yeah, they preempt you in their allocation, so they're gonna get 90%, you're gonna get 10.
Right,
But before they come, you were the top dog in the leaderboard,
right, right.
because you were the top, right? And then somebody else like, okay, he's the top, I can beat him 10x.
And you compete for the shares for that month, and then like every month there's a new competition round.
Every month there's a new competition round, and every month it's less tokens produced. So the first month could be 5 million, the next month could be 4,500,000, the next month could be 4 million, and so on and so forth until it
What
dies down.
what determines that? Is it just kind of market participation? Does the team determine the rate? What determines the rate?
The contract, the formula will be built in and immutable.
Okay.
So unchangeable. Nobody will be able to adjust it.
Is there any other part of the ecosystem that we haven't touched up on yet? Future roadmap, anything like that?
Yeah, I think for now it sums it up. It's already a lot. It's only been 85
It's a
days.
lot, yeah.
Yeah. Have you? Let's see. One sec. I want to show you something that maybe that's good to see.
For sure. Dank is saying Zen is for the masses. Bud Fox is saying mint and buy simple. Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued by the game theory for sure.
Game theory is the most important thing, but also fairness. I mean, you want things to be fair. All right, I want to share the screen real quick again.
As always, folks, like, subscribe, share the stream, click all the buttons. And we got what are we looking at here?
Zen Crypto Ecosystem Map version 1.1.
Wow. Okay.
All
I'm
of
seeing
the
a lot here.
things, all of the things that's being created on top of Zen, including stats, including NFTs, and various other things. So we see Zen.fyi, which is a website. It's an alternative UI to Mint Zen. We have Coin Tools, Zen DAO, Zen Hub, Zen Monitor, Zen NFTs, Zen Crypto.io, Zenpedia, lots and lots of things. Like all of those things, all of those orbits around Zen right here were created in just 2.5 months. It's crazy how much people love creating and building on Zen.
It is, and it's becoming particularly more exciting the more the kind of ecosystem the game theory is fleshed out here. Now, I know we touched on a lot here, but is there anything more you yourself, the core team, is expecting to work on aside from the NFTs, aside from this new token?
I think that's it for now. I mean, we're always improving the web UI just to make it better. I think it's pretty good. I mean, we haven't had the calculator built in. Now you have a calculator, so you can actually choose the Zen Mint parameters that you want. So that's extremely useful. So we're going to continue to make it better, and we'll continue to work with other people out there that are building on top of Zen.
Perfect. Okay. Is there anything we haven't touched on yet that we should?
I think we touched on a lot of good things, so it was a very, very good video. Very good stream so far.
I think so. I think this is one of those streams that you could send to new people for sure. Because I mean, to be honest with you, I think I mentioned this to some extent, but I came into this more or less pretty fresh. I did hear a couple things here and there about Zen, but I was definitely not as familiar as a lot of other people. So, man, I learned a lot here. I learned that Zen strikes me as something that is well thought out. There was effort put into it, and there is definitely here the intention for some interesting game theory to attract users. It's an open question whether or not those users come, but I'm most certainly interested to see kind of what the future brings, and I will be following Zen more closely myself. And to be honest, I am a Zen minter. I'm currently staking my Zen.
Nice.
But yeah, I didn't even know about the NFTs. Didn't consider them. I'm definitely gonna be.
Play. Get some Zenturians. Get a collection going.
Yeah. And you know what the thing is about NFTs too? Like people like to make fun of NFTs, but the thing about NFTs is that they're fun. Like having a picture, having something tangible, even just a little graphic, that makes it more fun than just a simple swap or seeing some decimals on a wallet. You know what I mean? And there is there is something definitely to that helps with adoption for sure. So, Mr. Jack Levin, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show and for being so generous with your time and kind of explaining what Zen is all about, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Any new developments? I'm glad to have you on the channel again. And if you're willing to talk about the market in general, I'd most definitely be interested in your opinions, folks. Everyone, like and subscribe. I'll leave a link for Jack's Twitter down in the description below if I haven't already, as well with the website. Folks, do your own research, not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just some dude on the internet trying to learn. So again, Jack, thanks so much for your time. Wanted to hear. Everyone, take care.
Awesome. Take care. Bye.